Good morning. This is Pastor Brian. Glad that you are here with me today as we read a chapter a day from Job. Today, chapter 31, a rather interesting chapter with a whole lot in it. So follow along and let's just dive right in. Chapter 31. I made a covenant with my eyes. How could I look at a virgin? What is God's portion for me from above, the Almighty's inheritance from on high? Isn't it disaster for the wicked, destruction for workers of iniquity? Doesn't he see my ways, count all my steps? If I have walked with frauds, or my feet have hurried to deceit, let him weigh me on accurate scales. Let God know my integrity. If my step has turned from the way, if my heart has followed my eyes, or a blemish has clung to my hands, then let me sow and another reap. Let my offspring be uprooted. If my heart has drawn to a woman, and I have lurked at my neighbor's door, then may my wife grind for another, and others kneel over her, for that's a crime. It is a punishable offense. Indeed, it's a fire that consumes to the underworld, uprooting all my harvest. If I've rejected the just cause of my male or female servant when they contended with me, what could I do when God rises, when he requires an account? What could I answer? Didn't the one who made me in the belly make them? Didn't the same one fashion us in the womb? If I have denied what the poor wanted, made a widow's eyes tired, eaten my morsel alone, and not shared with an orphan? For from my youth I raised the orphan as a father, and from my mother's womb I led the widow. If I ever saw someone dying without clothes, the needy naked, if they haven't blessed me fervently, or if they weren't warmed by the wool from my sheep, if I have lifted my hand against the orphans when I saw that I had help in the city gate, may my arm fall from my shoulder, my forearm be broken at the elbow. For God's calamity is terror to me. I couldn't endure his splendor. If I've made gold my trust, said to find gold my security, if I've rejoiced because my wealth was great, when my hand found plenty, if I've looked at the sun when it shone, the moon splendid as it moved, and my mind has been secretly enticed, and through a kiss with my hand, that also is a punishable offense, because I would then be disloyal to God above. If I have rejoiced over my foes' ruin, or was excited when evil found them, I didn't let my mouth sin by asking for their life with a curse. Surely those in my tent never said, "Who has been filled by Job's food?" A stranger didn't spend the night in the street. I opened my doors to the road. If I have hidden my transgressions like Adam, concealing my offenses inside me because I feared the large crowd, the clan's contempt frightened me, I was quiet and didn't venture outside. Oh, that I had someone to hear me. Here's my signature. Let the Almighty respond, and let my accuser write an indictment. Surely I would bear it on my shoulder, tie it around me like a wreath. I would give him an account of my steps, approach him like a prince. If my land has cried out against me, its rows wept together. If I have eaten its yield without payment and caused its owner's grief, may briars grow instead of wheat, poisonous weeds instead of barley. Job's words are complete. So what did you hear today? It was a long chapter compared to the rest. So if we break down, and I don't know if your Bible, if you're following along in a Bible, has little headlines, but Job, in his final part of his speech here, as we talked about, goes through chapter 31. He talks about specific different kinds of sins. So and those were the different titles, if you have titles, as I said, in your Bible. Of lust, of falsehood, of adultery, of mistreatment of servants, of failure to care for the poor, of trusting in wealth, of idolatry, of rejoicing in enemies' misfortune, lack of generosity towards others, hypocrisy, abusing the land. Those are all different things that he has said are things that could happen, but then he says in the very end of it, basically, if any of those things have happened, let these evil things happen to me. Basically saying, I will take these punishments that I have laid out for myself, or any punishment that I think you will place on me, God. But this is what I'm willing to accept and endure if I did this evil to anyone in this life. If I was wicked in any of these ways, I don't think I was, but if I was, let these things happen to me. So Job just really pounding in his complete innocence in this matter. What do you think about these bold statements by Job for himself in his context, but also how do you think about them in your own life? Like not rejoicing over someone else's ruin, or being excited when maybe something bad happens to them. Like when someone zooms past you in your car and screeches in front of you, and then they get the red light anyway. And you say, ha, they got a red light. Is that something that we should avoid others' misfortune? Or, at what level does that become something along the lines of what Job is talking about? Or opening your door to the stranger in a world in which we lock our doors and have alarms so that people don't break into our homes. How do we reconcile all these things? How do we find a healthy balance? What do you think are the healthy balances of all these different things that Job has brought up in this chapter? Not just about his innocence, but about how we balance being safe and healthy with caring for others, as Jesus has called us to do. Where do you find that balance? Where do you find yourself being called to live into those things? So think about those, write them down, share them with a friend, share them with us. Thank you for sticking with me in another longer edition of Job, both a longer chapter and a little bit of a longer discussion, but I hope you found it meaningful. I pray that it spoke to you and provided a lot of thought so that you could help grow in your faith. So take care of yourselves. God bless you all, and we'll see you tomorrow for chapter 32.